Welcome to Zoe Stories. I thought it was just a mistake, but the injection changed everything. The first thing people notice about me is how ordinary I seem. On the outside, I'm just Alex, a 24-year-old software analyst, quietly efficient, blending seamlessly into the hum of office life. I live a life meticulously calculated, predictable, and, on the surface, boring. But beneath that neutral exterior lies a secret I've carried for years, one I guard with both devotion and fear. For me, cross-dressing is not just a hobby. It is a delicate dance between who I am and who I can be, a thrilling exploration of identity I can't share with anyone, not even with Mia, my girlfriend, whose presence in my life is both comforting and terrifying in equal measure. My journey into this hidden world began subtly. A borrowed skirt, a swipe of lipstick, a wig tested in secret under the flickering light of my bedroom lamp. Each step initially felt like an experiment, a curious foray into something forbidden. But over time, the fascination deepened, becoming an emotional lifeline. Dressing up as a woman, slipping into flowing fabrics, tracing makeup along my features, adjusting a wig so it sits perfectly, awakens a version of myself that is bold, delicate, and alive in ways Alex never is. The sensation is intoxicating. The soft brush of synthetic hair against my skin, the sway of a dress that accentuates a form only I can see, the click of heels that make me feel taller, lighter, and strangely untethered. And yet, this secret life is fraught with anxiety. Outside my apartment, I am cautious, calculated, a professional whose colleagues see nothing beyond code, coffee, and punctuality. My friends suspect nothing. My family would never understand. Even Mia, vibrant and intuitive, would be shocked if she knew the truth. She notices details others overlook, the way my gaze lingers on certain textures, the slight shift in my posture when I handle delicate fabrics, but I have learned to mask these moments with a casual laugh, a practiced shrug. It is exhausting, living a life in fragments, constantly calculating what can be shown and what must remain hidden. Tonight, however, the apartment is empty. Mia had texted me that her late shift at the hospital was extended. The words are simple, practical, but to me, they feel like a key turning in a lock. Hours of freedom, alone in my apartment, with no one to judge, no one to interrupt. My pulse quickens as I survey the small space that doubles as my sanctuary. The living room is tidy, a mix of minimalist furniture and personal touches, soft throws, scented candles, a small collection of wigs carefully displayed on stands. On my bed lies the array of outfits I had meticulously selected over the past week. The flowing lilac dress I reserve for special nights, a pair of black heels that make every step feel like an announcement, and a soft, curly wig that frames my face in a way that feels almost magical. The thrill of what I am about to do sends shivers down my spine, but so does the fear. The anxiety of being caught, of failing, of exposing the secret, of revealing a side of myself that society, family, and even Mia might not understand, looms over me. I pace the apartment, running through the checklist in my mind. Makeup, dress, wig, heels, mirror, lighting, music, everything must be perfect. Each step is a ritual, a transformation that is as much mental as it is physical. I start with the makeup. Carefully, methodically, I trace eyeliner along my eyelids, blend shadows to create depth, contour my cheeks until the reflection staring back at me is unrecognizable yet familiar. The face in the mirror is confident, feminine, poised, but also delicate, vulnerable. Each brushstroke is a whisper of rebellion, a subtle act of self-expression that I cannot share with the outside world. Next comes the dress. Sliding into the soft fabric, I feel my posture change. My movements become more deliberate, more elegant. The dress hugs my body, accentuating curves I never show Alex, and the mirror confirms what I already know. Alexa is beautiful. I add the heels, the sensation of standing taller. Of every step a declaration of audacity sends a thrill coursing through me. It is intoxicating, frightening, and exhilarating all at once. I glance at the syringe tucked in the corner of my drawer, the latest experimental injection I had foolishly agreed to test for a friend in the medical field. At first, I had laughed at the idea. How could a single shot change anything? But as I stare at it now, a strange curiosity mixes with my nervous energy. Something about tonight feels charged different. Something feels inevitable. I tuck it back, trying to shake the thought. After all, nothing will go wrong tonight, right? The apartment is quiet, almost too quiet. The faint hum of the city seeps through the windows, a soft reminder of the world beyond my walls. Every small noise, the click of the heater, the distant honk of a car, even my own breathing, feels amplified. My heart quickens with the dual sensations of fear and excitement. The anticipation is a tangible thing, wrapping itself around me like the very fabric of my dress. Then, almost imperceptibly, I hear it, a click from the door. My breath catches. Did I forget to lock it? I freeze, every nerve alert. My imagination runs wild, conjuring scenarios both mundane and alarming.
Mia?
A neighbor? Someone from the building? My body tenses, but part of me wants to move closer, to confront the unknown, to see what the night truly has in store. The thrill is irresistible, even as my mind screams caution. For a moment, I consider abandoning the transformation, slipping back into Alex, retreating into safety. But the thought of losing this night, losing Alexa, feels unbearable. I adjust the wig one last time, smooth down the dress, and let myself breathe into the persona I have crafted with such care. Alexa is alive, vibrant, daring, and she refuses to be ignored. Not tonight. And then, the sound comes again, sharper this time. A deliberate twist of the door handle. My pulse races, my stomach drops, and in that suspended moment, I realize with a jolt, tonight will not be like any other. Something is coming, something unforeseen, and I am helpless to stop it. The thrill and fear merge into a singular, irresistible tension. The door handle begins to turn, slowly, deliberately, and I freeze, every instinct screaming at me to hide. Who, or what, is waiting on the other side? And in that heartbeat of silence, I know with terrifying clarity, nothing will ever be the same again. The apartment was silent, almost eerily so. The kind of silence that makes every small sound, a distant car horn, a creaking floorboard, even my own breathing, feel amplified. I stood frozen, adjusting the lilac dress around my waist for what felt like the 100th time. The mirror reflected a woman I barely recognized, yet had longed to become. Alexa. My other self. Every brushstroke of makeup, every delicate adjustment of the wig, every subtle sway in the heels had transformed more than just my appearance. It had transformed my entire energy, my posture, even the cadence of my thoughts. And yet, the thrill came hand in hand with fear. What if Mia came home early? What if someone appeared at the door unexpectedly? My heart thumped in my chest as I walked deliberately, heels clicking softly against the polished wooden floor. Each step was measured, controlled, but beneath that control, a storm of emotions raged. Excitement, anxiety, and curiosity collided inside me, creating a tension that was both intoxicating and terrifying. I paused before the dresser where the syringe lay, a small, almost innocuous vial that carried consequences I wasn't fully ready to understand. My fingers hovered over it. I had agreed to test this serum for a friend, jokingly calling it my little experiment. The label was clinical, unassuming, but the possibilities it promised were far from simple. Could one small injection change everything? Amplify aspects of femininity I had only imagined? Alter the course of my secret life forever? The thought sent shivers down my spine. Deciding to focus on the transformation for now, I turned back to the mirror. Applying makeup had always been a ritual for me, a careful dance of color and contour, a way to inhabit Alexa fully. Tonight, however, every stroke carried an extra charge. I blended the eyeshadow carefully, feeling the soft brush against my skin, tracing the liner with precision. The reflection staring back at me was no longer Alex. She was bold, poised, vulnerable, yet undeniably alive. I stepped back, adjusting the hem of the dress, feeling the sway of fabric over my legs, the lift from heels beneath my feet. The sensation was thrilling, almost addictive. Each movement, each glance in the mirror reinforced the persona I had been nurturing for years in secret. Alexa was not just an experiment or a hobby. She was freedom incarnate, a glimpse into a self I could never fully express in the light of day. Despite the exhilaration, anxiety licked at the edges of my consciousness. The city outside continued its endless rhythm, indifferent to my private drama, yet I felt every shadow as if it were alive, every creak of the apartment amplified by my awareness. I imagined Mia walking in at this very moment. How would she react? Would she laugh, judge, or, worse, look at me with confusion and disappointment? The thought made my pulse quicken, my palms sweat, yet also heightened the thrill. The risk was what made this intoxicating. I moved around the apartment, testing gestures, practicing the subtle sway of the hips, the delicate tilt of the head. Alexa had a presence that Alex could never achieve, a balance of confidence and vulnerability that felt electric. I spoke softly to myself, practicing tones, modulating my voice to match the reflection in the mirror. Every word, every inflection was part of the ritual, part of the transformation, part of embracing the forbidden thrill of being fully seen as someone else, even if it was only by me. Then a noise. Soft, almost imperceptible, a creak from the hallway outside my door. I froze. My pulse spiked, every sense on high alert. Could it be Mia returning? A neighbor? My imagination? I took a cautious step toward the door, listening intently. The silence that followed was suffocating, pressing against my chest like a weight. My mind raced with scenarios, each more dramatic than the last. The thrill and the fear intertwined, creating a tension that was almost unbearable. Shaking off the unease, I decided to immerse myself fully in the experience. I retrieved accessories from the drawer, a delicate necklace, simple earrings, bracelets that jingled faintly with movement. Each piece was carefully chosen to complement Alexa, to reinforce her presence, to solidify the illusion I was creating. The act was meditative, hypnotic even, and yet the undercurrent of suspense never left me. Every glance at the door, every creak in the building reminded me that this freedom was fragile. Hours, or what felt like hours, passed in this suspended state. I moved around the apartment, testing steps, practicing poses, perfecting expressions in the mirror. The apartment seemed both vast and confining, charged with the tension of secrecy. Each moment heightened my awareness, each movement a negotiation between thrill and caution. I could almost forget Alex, almost live fully as Alexa. But the rational side of me, the part still clinging to reality, reminded me that this world was temporary, that the slightest misstep could shatter the delicate balance I had crafted. And then the noise came again. A deliberate, unmistakable sound. The door handle twisted slightly, as if someone were testing it. My heart jumped. I froze completely, heels clicking silently against the floor. The thrill of discovery, the fear of exposure, and the lure of my own curiosity collided violently. My pulse thundered in my ears. I had to decide, stay frozen, retreat to Alex, or confront the unknown. The decision hung heavy in the air, every second stretching longer than the last. The handle turned slowly, deliberately, and I realized with a jolt that this is no ordinary night. Someone or something is on the other side. My heart pounds as I take an involuntary step back, the heels slipping slightly on the polished floor. Alexa freezes in the mirror, eyes wide, breath shallow. And in that suspended heartbeat, I know nothing tonight will ever be the same again. Even after the door handle had stopped twisting, my heart continued its frantic rhythm. I pressed myself against the wall, heels digging slightly into the floor, breath uneven. Every nerve in my body screamed that someone was out there, someone who could discover Alexa before the night even truly began. My reflection in the mirror caught my eyes, wide, alert, alive with both fear and exhilaration. It wasn't just a reflection of a woman in a dress anymore. It was a reflection of risk, of audacity, of a thrill I could barely control. I tried to focus on the familiar routines, brushing the wig's curls once more, smoothing the fabric of the dress. Each motion, each adjustment was a lifeline. Alexa had to feel perfect, poised, ready for the night that was unfolding in the shadows. I ran my fingers along my neckline, feeling the soft weight of the necklace, the chill of the earrings, the subtle jingle of bracelets. Every tiny sound was amplified in the silence of the apartment, making my senses hyper-aware, my thoughts racing faster than ever. Then a thought hit me, the syringe. I had not touched it since placing it back in the drawer earlier. Its presence loomed like a silent promise. One small injection could amplify this transformation, could heighten Alexa's presence, make the persona feel even more real, more vivid. I glanced at it, feeling the pulse of temptation. Alex's rational mind shouted caution, imagining all the things that could go wrong. A permanent change, a visible reaction, something unpredictable. But Alexa, hungry, bold, insatiable, whispered a single, intoxicating thought. What if this is the step that makes it all real? I shook my head and returned to the mirror, trying to ground myself. Makeup had become second nature, but tonight every contour, every stroke of eyeliner carried weight. The eyes in the reflection were not just the eyes of a woman. They were the eyes of someone daring to flirt with danger, to test limits, to explore a self that Alex had always hidden. I traced my fingers along the blush on my cheeks, marveling at the transformation. How could one persona feel so alive while the other quivered just beneath the surface? As I practiced small movements, small gestures, I imagined Mia walking through the door at any second. My pulse spiked, every instinct screaming to hide, yet something inside urged me to stay, to embrace the vulnerability. What would she think if she caught me like this? Would she laugh, scold, or simply stare in disbelief? The scenario played in my mind repeatedly, each possibility more nerve-wracking than the last. The thrill of being discovered, even just in imagination, sent shivers through me. I decided to test Alexa's confidence further. Walking slowly across the apartment, I swayed deliberately, hips shifting, shoulders straightened, head held high. The sensation of heels against the floor, the sway of the dress, the soft brush of the wig against my skin, it was intoxicating, a sensory high I couldn't resist. Every step heightened my awareness. Every sound outside the apartment amplified the risk. Was someone there, or was my mind playing tricks? The uncertainty only deepened the thrill, making the transformation feel more alive, more dangerous. Suddenly, I heard it again, a soft knock at the door, deliberate, measured. My heart jumped. Someone was testing me, probing, or perhaps unaware of the storm I had invited into my own home. I froze, hands trembling, unsure whether to answer, hide, or retreat. Alexa's mind raced. This was a test, a chance to see if I could navigate the tension without losing composure. I straightened the dress, adjusted the wig, and tried to calm my breathing. I crept toward the door, each step a negotiation between fear and excitement. The knock came again, slightly louder this time. My imagination ran wild, conjuring images of Mia, neighbors, or even some stranger with unknown intentions. The apartment felt suddenly claustrophobic, the shadows pressing against me. Alexa's presence, usually a shield, now felt fragile, hanging by the thinnest of threads. I could almost feel the persona trembling, caught between exhilaration and terror. I glanced at the syringe once more, the temptation almost unbearable. Could one small injection give me the edge, make Alexa feel unstoppable, untouchable? I imagined the serum coursing through my veins, enhancing curves, softening features, heightening my confidence. My pulse raced as I imagined the immediate effect, the transformation amplified, more convincing, more daring. But with it came the uncertainty, the risk of irreversible change. My hands hovered over the vial, my reflection staring back with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. The knock on the door stopped abruptly. The silence was heavy, almost suffocating. I strained to listen, every nerve taut, every muscle ready to react. Then came a sound from the window, a faint rustle, the hint of movement outside. My heart leapt into my throat. The thrill and the fear were inseparable, a cocktail that left me breathless, trembling, and alive in ways Alex never could be. I moved back toward the dresser, trying to steady myself, to regain control of the night. Alexa was fully awake now, present in a way that demanded attention. Every step, every adjustment of the dress, every tilt of the head reinforced her reality. I could almost forget Alex entirely, become wholly consumed by this persona. And yet, the world outside my apartment reminded me that nothing was certain. Every sound, every shadow could be a threat, a challenge, or a revelation waiting to shatter this fragile illusion. Hours, or what felt like hours, slipped by in a suspended state. Alexa practiced movements, gestures, expressions, speaking softly to herself, testing tones, testing confidence. The apartment felt charged, alive with tension and possibility. Each sound outside, the faint hum of traffic, a distant conversation, the occasional creak of the floorboards, felt like a test, an invisible observer watching, judging, waiting for a slip. And then it happened, a deliberate, unmistakable sound. The door handle twisted slowly, just enough to make my pulse race and my breath catch. Someone was outside. My heart slammed against my ribs as Alexa froze in the mirror, eyes wide, lips parted, caught between exhilaration and terror. The suspense became almost unbearable. Would I be discovered? Was it Mia, or something else entirely? My instincts screamed to hide, but part of me wanted to confront, to embrace the unknown. The door handle continues to turn slowly, deliberately. My reflection in the mirror mirrors my panic and excitement. I take an involuntary step back, heels slipping slightly on the polished floor. And in that heartbeat, I realize, tonight, nothing, absolutely nothing, will ever be the same again. The apartment felt smaller than ever, walls closing in with the weight of suspense. My reflection in the mirror, Alexa, stood frozen, every movement deliberate, every breath measured. The door handle had stopped twisting for now, but the threat lingered, hovering like a shadow over the room. Every creak, every distant noise became amplified, sharper, impossible to ignore. I clutched the edges of the dress, heels planted firmly on the floor, trying to ground myself in the persona that had become more real than Alex. The thrill and fear intertwined, an intoxicating current that ran through me from head to toe. I practiced subtle gestures, tilting my head, shifting weight from one foot to the other, lifting my chin slightly. Each motion was designed to make Alexa's presence convincing, elegant, undeniable. Yet every time I looked toward the door, every time I imagined Mia stepping inside, a cold shiver ran down my spine. The balance between exhilaration and terror was razor-thin, and I felt myself teetering on the edge. I allowed myself a moment to breathe, glancing at the syringe once more. My curiosity flared. The possibility of taking the injection loomed over me like a temptation I could not ignore. What if this was the night that changed everything, not just in appearance but in reality? The rational part of Alex screamed caution, warning of irreversible consequences, but Alexa's boldness surged forward, daring me to embrace it. My hands hovered over the vial, fingers trembling slightly, pulse racing. Could one small act make Alexa more than a secret identity? Could it make her permanent? Before I could decide, another sound interrupted my thoughts, a soft, tentative knock at the door, followed by a muffled voice. My stomach twisted into knots.
Someone was out there.
Every instinct screamed to hide, yet Alexa was alive, daring, defiant. I pressed myself against the wall, peering toward the door with a mixture of terror and anticipation. The knock came again, slightly louder, more deliberate. My mind raced with possibilities. Mia returning unexpectedly, a neighbor, or someone I hadn't anticipated. The suspense was unbearable. I took a slow, deliberate step back, heels clicking softly against the floor. Alexa's movements were careful, graceful, yet every gesture was charged with tension. I moved to the window, peering through the blinds, heart hammering in my chest. The city lights below stretched endlessly, indifferent, but I felt observed, exposed, caught in a delicate moment where one misstep could shatter everything. The adrenaline coursing through me had a physical effect I couldn't ignore. My pulse quickened, a flush of warmth rose in my cheeks, and a subtle tingling sensation spread across my body. I could feel Alexa's presence intensifying, a heady mix of confidence, vulnerability, and heightened awareness. It was as if the injection, though untouched, was already influencing my mind, amplifying the persona I had created. My hands shook slightly as I adjusted the dress and smoothed down the wig, every movement laden with new energy. Time seemed to stretch and contract unpredictably. Minutes felt like hours, and the air in the apartment grew thick with tension. I paced slowly, testing Alexa's poise, practicing gestures, and modulating my voice. Each word I whispered to myself, each movement I made, reinforced her reality, yet the threat outside the door remained. Every sound, the hum of traffic, distant voices, the faint creak of floorboards, felt amplified, a reminder that my secret was fragile. Then, without warning, the door handle clicked again. A deliberate twist, a slow pressure, a testing motion. My pulse spiked, breath caught, and I froze entirely, heels planted, fingers gripping the edge of the dresser. Alexa's reflection in the mirror mirrored my fear, eyes wide, lips parted slightly, heart visible in every subtle movement. The suspense was palpable, almost suffocating. Was it Mia? Or someone else? My imagination conjured every possible scenario, each more nerve-wracking than the last. I backed away slowly, trying to remain silent, testing the distance between myself and the door. The heels, usually a source of power and elegance, now felt precarious, threatening to betray me with every step. My mind raced. Should I hide, confront, or retreat? Each option carried risk. Each second stretched longer, the tension building to a near unbearable peak. Then, the voice came low, uncertain, almost curious. A neighbor? A delivery? Or something else entirely? I strained to hear, every fiber of my being alert. Alexa's persona remained poised, controlled on the outside, but inside, every emotion surged unchecked. Fear, thrill, vulnerability, and the undeniable excitement of being on the edge of discovery. I realized suddenly that the room felt charged, almost electric. Every shadow, every object, every reflection seemed magnified. The dress swayed gently as I shifted, the wig's curls brushed against my neck, the bracelets jingled faintly. Every sensation was heightened, every nerve ending alert. Alexa was fully alive, fully present, and yet the world outside my apartment was an unknown threat, a delicate balance between exposure and secrecy. I took a deliberate step toward the dresser, eyes flicking toward the syringe once more. The temptation was irresistible. Could one small injection tip the scales, make Alexa undeniable, unforgettable, permanent? My pulse raced, hands trembling slightly, yet I couldn't bring myself to touch it.
Not yet.
The moment demanded full attention, full awareness of the danger, full surrender to the thrill. And then it happened. The knock, louder this time, more urgent, insistent. My heart nearly stopped. Alexa froze in the mirror, eyes wide, breath shallow, every sense tingling with awareness. The suspense reached a crescendo, a heady mixture of fear and exhilaration, the perfect storm of emotion. Whoever, or whatever, was on the other side of the door had no idea the chaos they were about to unleash. The handle twists again, slowly but deliberately, accompanied by a soft voice calling my name. My heels slip slightly on the polished floor as I step back, heart hammering, eyes locked on the door. In that moment, I realize with a jolt, the night has only just begun, and Alexa may never be the same again. The apartment felt alive in a way it never had before. Every shadow, every creak of the floorboards, Every distant hum of the city outside seemed amplified, like the world itself was watching. Alex, stood frozen, heels digging slightly into the polished floor, eyes locked on the door. Alexa's reflection in the mirror stared back at me, eyes wide, posture perfect, yet every muscle taut with tension. The persona I had cultivated over months now held me captive, bold, alive, and dangerously real. The door handle twitched again, slow, deliberate, testing. My stomach churned, but the thrill was undeniable. Alexa had never felt so alive, so potent, so aware of every detail of her presence. I could feel the subtle effects of the injection, even though I hadn't touched it yet. The anticipation alone seemed to alter my perception, heightening every sensation, sharpening every nerve ending. My skin felt more sensitive, the dress softer against my body, the heels almost like extensions of my own legs. The transformation was no longer just psychological, it was physical, visceral, undeniable. I crept toward the dresser, hands trembling slightly, adjusting the wig and smoothing the fabric of the dress. Every motion was deliberate, rehearsed, controlled, but beneath the control lurked chaos, fear, and excitement. The thrill of being on the edge, of teetering between exposure and secrecy, had my pulse hammering. I whispered softly to myself, testing Alexa's voice, her tone, her cadence. Every word reinforced her presence, every gesture reinforced the reality I had created. Then the knock came again, sharper this time, more insistent, urgent. My heart skipped a beat. Whoever or whatever was outside had grown bolder. I pressed myself against the wall, breath shallow, trying to appear as poised and unshakable as Alexa would. But inside, panic and excitement waged a war I could barely contain. Should I retreat to Alex? Hide? Or stay? Daring the unknown? The decision hovered, heavy as the air in the apartment. The suspense was almost unbearable. I moved cautiously, heels clicking softly against the floor, listening for any hint of movement beyond the door. Alexa's every gesture felt amplified by adrenaline, the tilt of the head, the sway of the hips, the subtle lift of the chin. My reflection in the mirror looked back with an almost predatory awareness, daring me to stay in character despite the looming threat. The thrill was intoxicating, the fear electrifying. My mind flicked again to the syringe, lying innocently on the dresser. The temptation pulsed like a heartbeat. Could one injection make this moment irreversible? Could it solidify Alexa, amplify her, make her undeniable even if the world discovered me? My fingers hovered over it, trembling slightly, heart racing, yet caution anchored me. Not yet. Tonight demanded vigilance. Every sound, every shadow, every twitch of the door handle reminded me of the delicate balance I had cultivated. Then, suddenly, movement outside the window caught my attention. A shadow shifted, barely perceptible, but enough to send a jolt of adrenaline through me. My pulse raced, breath caught. The city outside seemed indifferent, but the threat felt immediate, intimate, alive. I pressed myself back, adjusting the dress, tilting my head, embodying Alexa fully while remaining acutely aware of danger. The persona felt almost too real now, as if she could step out of the mirror and confront whatever lurked beyond the apartment walls. Minutes stretched like hours. I practiced small movements, gestures, and poses, testing Alexa's balance and poise. Each step in the heels, each sway of the dress, each flick of the wrist seemed charged with electricity. The sensation was almost intoxicating, a mix of empowerment and vulnerability, boldness and fear. I could feel a subtle change in my body too, a hint of softness in my skin, a heightened sensitivity that I couldn't explain. Whether it was anticipation, adrenaline, or the serum's mysterious promise, I couldn't tell, but the effect was undeniable. Then came the faintest whisper from the door, a sound almost too soft to hear. My heart leapt. Someone was listening, probing, waiting for a slip. I pressed myself into the shadows, careful not to make a sound, yet unable to resist glancing in the mirror. Alexa's eyes met mine, wide, alert, alive with defiance and fear. She embodied everything I wanted to be, everything I dared to explore, everything that Alex could never express. And yet, the danger outside remained real, imminent, pressing in from every angle. I backed toward the dresser, almost colliding with the syringe. My hands shook, my breath quickened. Could I resist the temptation any longer? The persona in the mirror seemed to urge me forward, daring me to take the risk, to embrace the unknown, to make Alexa permanent. My pulse thundered in my ears. Every nerve ending screamed. Every instinct battled desire. Every shadow felt like a warning. And then it happened, a sudden, sharp knock, louder than before, echoing through the apartment. My heels slipped slightly on the polished floor. I froze completely, heart in my throat, eyes locked on the door. Alexa's reflection mirrored my tension, every muscle taut, every breath shallow. The knock came again, deliberate and insistent, accompanied by a soft, questioning voice that sent chills down my spine. Whoever was outside had no idea the chaos they were about to enter. The doorknob rattles violently as the voice calls out my name. My reflection in the mirror freezes, lips parted, eyes wide with terror and anticipation. In that instant, I realized that nothing, absolutely nothing, will ever be the same again. The threshold between Alex and Alexa has begun to blur, and the world beyond the door is about to force a choice I can no longer avoid. The apartment felt impossibly small, every shadow magnified, every creak amplified, every distant sound pressing into me like a living thing. My heart raced uncontrollably, my pulse hammering in my ears as Alexa's reflection stared back from the mirror, poised, flawless, trembling just beneath the surface. The persona I had nurtured for months now consumed me entirely, but the threat outside the door had grown impossible to ignore. Every instinct screamed danger. Every nerve screamed thrill. The doorknob rattled again, this time with force, followed by a tentative knock. My breath caught in my throat. Whoever was outside was growing bolder, closer, more impatient. The persona in the mirror, Alexa, stood frozen but defiant, posture perfect, expression carefully composed, yet the tension radiating from her was undeniable. I pressed myself against the wall, heels planted, hands clutching the fabric of the dress, as if it could anchor me against a storm of fear and desire raging inside. The syringe on the dresser called to me like a forbidden promise. Its presence was electric, a lure I could barely resist. Could one injection make Alexa permanent? Could it amplify this night, solidify this transformation, erase the fragile boundary between Alex and Alexa? My fingers hovered over it, trembling slightly, pulse racing. Every nerve in my body tingled with anticipation. I wanted to take it, to feel the surge, to make the persona undeniable, but fear anchored me, whispering caution. Not yet. Not while the unknown waited outside the door. A shadow passed across the window. My heart lurched. The city outside was indifferent, yet the threat felt immediate, intimate, alive. I stepped cautiously, heels clicking softly against the floor, testing my balance, testing Alexa's poise, practicing subtle movements that could betray nothing. Every shift of the hips, every tilt of the head, every gentle breath was a rehearsal, a test, a lifeline in this suspense-filled moment. Then came the voice, soft, deliberate, familiar.
Mia.
My breath caught. My chest tightened, every muscle frozen, as the persona in the mirror met my own gaze with wide eyes, lips parted in a mixture of terror and anticipation. My pulse thundered. Alexa had never felt so alive, so vulnerable, so electrifyingly real. And yet, the fear of exposure had never been so immediate, so terrifying. I moved cautiously toward the dresser, testing the syringe again. My fingers trembled, hovering just above the vial, the temptation almost unbearable. Could one injection make Alexa undeniable? Could it erase the hesitation, the fear, the fragile barrier holding Alex and Alexa apart? Every instinct screamed yes, but reason, caution, survival screamed no. The moment demanded full awareness, full control, but the tension was unbearable, thick in the air, pressing against my chest with every heartbeat. The knock came again, urgent now, insistent, accompanied by Mia's soft, questioning voice. My breath caught in my throat. I had to decide, stay poised as Alexa, retreat to Alex, or risk exposure entirely. The apartment felt like a pressure cooker, each second stretching unbearably, each sound magnified, each shadow a potential threat. Alexa's persona was fully alive now, every sense heightened, every movement precise yet trembling beneath the surface. I glanced at the mirror, seeing the persona fully realized, perfect, poised, alive with tension and fear. The subtle changes I had begun to feel from the injection's promise, the warmth in my skin, the tingling sensitivity, the heightened awareness, were now undeniable. Alexa was no longer just a persona. She was a living, breathing extension of me, thrillingly real, impossibly vulnerable, intoxicatingly present. A sudden creak outside the door made me flinch. My heels slipped slightly on the polished floor as I pressed myself against the wall, trying to control my breath, control the persona, control the chaos inside. The knock came again, louder, more insistent, echoing in the apartment like a drumbeat of impending revelation. Alexa froze in the mirror, eyes wide, lips slightly parted, every sense sharpened to a knife edge. I moved cautiously toward the door, trying to steady myself, heels clicking softly. Every step felt like a negotiation with fate. I could hear Mia's voice again, closer, more certain, calling my name with curiosity, concern, and a hint of suspicion. My fingers hovered over the doorknob, trembling, unsure whether to retreat, confront, or risk everything. The persona of Alexa demanded confrontation, boldness, defiance, but the fear of discovery, of judgment, of rejection, held me back. Then, a sudden sound, a faint giggle, almost playful, almost mocking, echoed through the apartment. My heart nearly stopped. Alexa froze completely in the mirror, every muscle taut, every breath shallow. The thrill, the fear, the anticipation, and the desire collided inside me, leaving me trembling yet electrified. My reflection seemed to stare back with an almost sentient awareness, daring me to take the final step, to embrace the unknown, to cross the line from experimentation to irreversible transformation. I glanced one last time at the syringe. The temptation was irresistible. The persona in the mirror seemed to lean toward it, urging me, whispering promises of boldness, beauty, and undeniable presence. Yet the knock on the door grew louder, more urgent, every second stretching impossibly long. My mind raced, body trembling, breath caught. Could I resist the injection? Could I maintain the fragile balance of secrecy? Or would the world beyond the door force my hand, exposing Alexa in ways I could not imagine? The doorknob rattles violently. Mia's voice, soft but insistent, calls out my name again. Alexa's reflection in the mirror seems almost alive, eyes wide, heart racing, every nerve on edge. My hand hovers over the syringe, trembling. And in that heartbeat, I realize with stark clarity, the night is about to change everything, and nothing will ever be the same. The doorknob rattled violently again, and this time, there was no mistaking it. Mia's voice called out my name, soft but layered with concern and curiosity. My breath caught, heels digging into the floor, and Alexa, my bold, electrifying persona, stood frozen in the mirror, eyes wide, every nerve ending alive with tension. This was it. The moment I had been both dreading and secretly anticipating. I pressed myself against the wall, hands clutching the fabric of the dress, trying to steady the trembling in my fingers. Every heartbeat thundered in my chest, every thought screamed in my head. Should I hide? Pretend Alex had returned? Or confront the reality as Alexa, daring the world to judge, daring Mia to discover? The persona surged within me, a force I could no longer control entirely. Bold, provocative, unrestrained. I took a cautious step toward the door, swaying gently in my heels, the sensation of the dress sliding against my skin electrifying yet grounding me. The knock came again, insistent, each rap a drumbeat in my chest, reminding me of the thin line between exposure and secrecy. I glanced at the mirror, seeing Alexa's reflection almost as a separate entity, alive, alert, seductive, and terrified all at once. Her eyes met mine, wide with anticipation, daring me to make the next move. Suddenly, a sound behind me, a soft click from the syringe lying innocently on the dresser, pulled my attention. My fingers hovered, trembling, over the vial. Could one injection solidify Alexa, make her undeniable, irreversible? The persona in the mirror seemed to lean toward it, whispering promises of boldness, beauty, and a confidence I had never known. But outside, the knocking continued, louder, more urgent, and every instinct screamed caution. Mia's voice, now tinged with slight amusement and concern, called again. "Alex? Are you there? I thought you were home earlier." My pulse leapt into my throat. My mind raced through a dozen scenarios. What would I say? How could I explain the dress, the wig, the persona staring back at her in the mirror? But Alexa's boldness surged, overriding hesitation. She was real now, commanding attention, and the idea of retreating to Alex felt almost impossible. I moved slowly, deliberately, toward the dresser, keeping my body aligned with the mirror. Every movement was rehearsed, controlled, yet each step brought my pulse closer to the edge. My reflection matched every motion perfectly, a poised, trembling woman, on the brink of exposure, yet radiating confidence. I picked up the syringe, feeling the weight of possibility in my hand. Should I inject? Should I risk permanence for the thrill, for the boldness, for Alexa's undeniable reality? Before I could decide, the knocking stopped abruptly. Silence fell, heavy and oppressive, making the air in the apartment feel thick. My ears strained, every tiny sound amplified, the hum of the fridge, the distant traffic, the soft brush of my dress against my legs. Alexa's reflection seemed to shiver in the mirror, caught between excitement and fear, vulnerability and defiance. I backed toward the wall, heels clicking softly, eyes darting between the door and the mirror. Then a shadow appeared at the edge of the window. I froze, heart hammering. Whoever was out there, whether Mia or someone else, could see a flicker of movement, a hint of the persona I had cultivated so carefully. The sensation was electric, terrifying, and exhilarating all at once. Alexa's presence surged through me, making every breath sharper, every gesture more charged, every nerve ending alive with anticipation. A sudden movement from the door jolted me fully into awareness. The handle twisted slowly, deliberately, and Mia's voice called out softly again. "Alex, is that you? Please talk to me." My heart thundered. I was on the edge of exposure. Alexa's persona urged boldness, urged confrontation, urged embracing the unknown, but fear clawed at me relentlessly. One misstep, one wrong word, and the secret I had held for months could shatter in an instant. I took a deep, trembling breath, letting it out slowly, trying to steady myself. Every muscle in my body tensed, poised between action and inaction. The syringe in my hand was heavy with temptation, the promise of transformation almost tangible. I could feel subtle changes already, the tingling warmth in my skin, the heightened sensitivity, the way my features seemed softer, more fluid, more convincingly female. Alexa was no longer just a persona. She was becoming undeniable, physical, alive. And then, just as I began to consider injecting, the door handle rattled again, more violently this time. Mia's voice, now tinged with concern and frustration, called out, "Alex, please open the door." My pulse soared. Alexa froze in the mirror, lips parted, eyes wide with terror and exhilaration. Every instinct screamed danger, yet every part of me longed to embrace the persona fully, to step into the identity I had created so carefully. I backed toward the dresser, heels slipping slightly, and my eyes locked on the syringe one last time. The decision loomed over me like a storm. Risk permanence, risk exposure, risk everything, and feel Alexa fully alive, or retreat, hide, and preserve the fragile secret that balanced my dual existence. My reflection seemed almost sentient, eyes urging me, trembling yet daring me to act. Suddenly, the door creaked open just slightly, and a sliver of light cut across the room. My breath caught. Alexa's reflection mirrored every ounce of my fear, every heartbeat of exhilaration, every shiver of anticipation. The moment of truth had arrived. I could feel the persona surging through me, amplifying every sensation, every emotion, every heartbeat. As the door inches open, Mia's shadow stretches across the apartment floor. Alexa's reflection in the mirror stares back, trembling, defiant, and impossible to ignore. The syringe quivers in my hand, the weight of choice pressing down like a physical force. And in that heartbeat, I realize there is no turning back now. Tonight, everything will change. The door creaked open just slightly, a narrow slice of light cutting across the room. My heart slammed in my chest, every nerve alight with anticipation and terror. Alexa's reflection in the mirror stared back at me, poised yet trembling, daring me to confront the moment fully. The apartment felt impossibly small, shadows stretching across walls, amplifying every sound, the soft hum of the fridge, the faint whir of the air conditioner, even the echo of my own breathing. Mia's voice came next, gentle but insistent, tinged with concern. "Alex, are you okay? I thought you'd be home hours ago." My pulse rocketed. Every word, every pause, every breath carried a weight of judgment I couldn't escape. I pressed myself against the wall, heels digging into the polished floor, clutching the dress, wig, and accessories as if they could anchor me to Alexa's persona. The syringe on the dresser glimmered under the soft light. The temptation surged through me, electric and undeniable. One small injection, and Alexa would become undeniable, permanent, irrevocable, unshakably real. Yet, outside the door, Mia waited, oblivious but dangerously close to discovering everything. My fingers hovered above the vial, trembling, heart hammering, mind racing with every possible outcome. I took a tentative step forward, heels clicking softly, practicing Alexa's posture, Alexa's poise. Each movement was calculated, every shift deliberate, yet my pulse betrayed me, racing like a drumbeat of impending disaster. The persona had consumed me almost entirely, her elegance, her boldness, her fear, all intertwined in every motion I made. I was no longer just Alex. I was a hybrid of both, teetering on a knife edge between revelation and secrecy. Mia moved slightly, stepping further into the apartment. The sliver of light widened, illuminating the floorboards, the dresser, and a faint glimpse of Alexa's reflection in the mirror. My breath caught in my throat. I had to decide, confront her, hide, or risk the syringe. Alexa's defiance surged, urging me to step fully into her reality, to embrace the boldness I had nurtured for months. But fear rooted me in place, fingers trembling, heart pounding. Suddenly, the handle clicked again, louder this time. Mia's curiosity grew with each movement. My pulse soared, adrenaline flooding my veins, making the persona even more vivid, more alive. I could feel subtle changes in my body, a softening in my features, a tingling warmth in my skin, heightened awareness in every nerve ending. Alexa was no longer just a reflection. She was physical, vibrant, intoxicating, and terrifyingly real. I backed toward the dresser, heels clicking softly, eyes darting between Mia and the mirror. Alexa's reflection met mine, lips parted slightly, eyes wide, a mixture of fear and defiance radiating from her every gesture. The syringe beckoned, almost alive in my hand, whispering promises of permanence, of boldness, of an identity I could no longer ignore. But the danger loomed just beyond the door, each moment threatening to expose everything I had carefully hidden. Mia took another step forward. "Alex, seriously, are you okay?" Her voice now carried concern tinged with suspicion. My throat tightened. I could feel every muscle in my body coil with tension, every nerve screaming. One wrong movement, one misstep, one sound, and Alexa could be revealed, her existence exposed in the harsh light of reality. I considered the syringe again, hand trembling. Could I take it now? Could I risk permanence while Mia was so close? The persona inside me surged, her boldness and confidence clashing violently with Alex's fear and hesitation. The reflection in the mirror seemed almost sentient, urging me, daring me to embrace her fully. Every breath, every heartbeat, every flicker of movement felt magnified, like the world had narrowed to this single, impossible choice. And then, without warning, Mia's foot nudged a small rug, sending it sliding across the floor. The soft thump echoed through the apartment, and I froze completely, eyes wide. Alexa's reflection mirrored my fear, posture stiff, every nerve ending on edge. Mia paused, tilting her head slightly, her brow furrowed in curiosity. She was closer than ever to discovering the truth, and my body felt the electricity of the moment, trembling with the impossible tension between exposure and secrecy. The syringe vibrated slightly in my fingers, the temptation almost unbearable. One injection could make Alexa undeniable, irreversible, alive in a way that Alex could never hope to be. Yet the risk of being discovered was at its peak. Every sound, every shadow, every breath could betray me. The apartment seemed to shrink, every wall pressing closer, every creak magnified, every heartbeat deafening. Mia stepped forward again, her shadows stretching across the floor, light spilling onto the dresser, the syringe glinting faintly in the glow. Alexa's reflection trembled in the mirror, eyes wide, lips parted, every nerve alive with tension. The persona surged within me, bold, daring, seductive, and terrifyingly real. I was caught between two worlds, teetering on a razor's edge. Just as Mia's hand reaches for the doorframe, the syringe slips slightly in my trembling fingers. Time seems to freeze. Alexa's reflection stares back at me, wide-eyed and unflinching. And in that heartbeat, I realize with chilling clarity. Everything could be revealed in a single moment, and there is no going back. The apartment was suffocating. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the walls, and every faint creak of the floorboard seemed like an alarm signaling imminent discovery. Mia's presence loomed just beyond the door, her voice echoing softly, layered with concern, curiosity, and suspicion. My heart pounded violently in my chest, every beat amplifying the tension between Alex and Alexa, the dual identities now entwined in a dangerous dance. I pressed myself against the wall, heels digging into the polished floor, fingers trembling as they clutched the fabric of the dress. Alexa's reflection in the mirror stared back at me, wide-eyed, poised, and impossibly alive. Her presence was no longer just a reflection of my imagination. Every subtle movement, every flicker of expression, every nuance in her eyes made her feel real, physical, almost independent. My body responded to her as if she were separate, tangible, breathing life into muscles and nerves I hadn't felt before. Mia's hand rested lightly on the doorknob, lingering, hesitating. The soft scrape of the metal against the frame sent a shiver down my spine. Every second stretched into an eternity. Alexa's persona surged, bold, daring, intoxicating, urging me to step fully into the reality I had created. The reflection in the mirror was no longer a silent observer. It was a participant, daring me to embrace her fully, to abandon Alex entirely. I inched toward the dresser, fingers hovering over the syringe. Its presence was magnetic, whispering promises of permanence, empowerment, and a transformation that could erase all hesitation. But the risk of being discovered was at its peak. Mia was just beyond the threshold, eyes sharp, voice soft but insistent, demanding attention, yet unaware of the storm brewing inside. My pulse raced, fingers trembling, breath shallow. Every instinct screamed danger, yet desire surged, powerful and irresistible. Then a sudden sound, a soft click from the door hinge, made me freeze entirely. Mia had shifted, unknowingly bringing herself closer to the revelation I had worked so hard to conceal. Alexa's reflection in the mirror mirrored my fear and excitement, wide-eyed and tense, every nerve alive. The persona surged forward, daring, seductive, impossibly real. My body felt transformed, every curve amplified, every gesture fluid, every movement charged with tension. I took a deliberate, trembling step, heels clicking softly on the floor. Alexa's reflection mirrored the motion perfectly, poised yet terrified, daring me to confront the moment fully. My fingers brushed the syringe, and the temptation nearly overwhelmed me. One injection could cement Alexa's reality, erase hesitation, blur the line between Alex and her forever. But the world outside the door, embodied in Mia's presence, threatened exposure, judgment, and irreversible consequences. Mia cleared her throat, her voice now tinged with suspicion. "Alex, you've been acting strangely all day. Are you hiding something from me?" My heart skipped a beat. Every instinct screamed danger. I swallowed hard, trying to steady the trembling in my hands. Alexis surged inside me, her boldness clashing violently with Alex's fear. The reflection in the mirror seemed to watch, alive, challenging, daring me to choose fully, to act decisively. Suddenly, a soft thump echoed from the hallway outside, the sound of something small being dropped. Mia's gaze shifted momentarily toward the noise, giving me a fleeting but precious moment of reprieve. I pressed my back against the wall, clutching the dress, feeling the subtle changes from the injection's effects, or perhaps the adrenaline itself. Skin tingling, muscles alert, features softer, more fluid, more convincingly female. Alexa was no longer just a persona. She was a living presence, impossible to ignore. I considered the syringe again. My hand hovered, trembling, the weight of choice pressing down like a physical force. Could I take it now? Could I embrace Alexa fully while Mia was so dangerously close? My mind raced through possibilities: confrontation, concealment, exposure. Each scenario was electric with tension, every heartbeat synchronized with the pounding of adrenaline in my chest. Mia moved closer, stepping into the light spilling from the hallway. Her shadows stretched across the floor, illuminating the dresser, the syringe, and a faint glimpse of Alexa's reflection. My pulse soared. Alexa's persona surged, defiant, daring, almost independent. Every nerve in my body tingled with excitement, fear, and desire. I was caught in a storm between revelation and secrecy, poised on a knife edge where one wrong move could unravel everything. And then, without warning, the unexpected happened. The window rattled slightly from a sudden gust of wind, drawing Mia's attention for just a moment. Her eyes flicked toward the movement, breaking her focus on the door. In that heartbeat, I felt the full intensity of Alexa's presence surge through me. The persona moved with a fluid grace, almost taking over my limbs, compelling me to act, to embrace the transformation fully. As Mia turns back toward me, her expression now mixed with confusion and concern, the syringe slips from my fingers entirely, rolling across the floor with a soft clatter. Alexa's reflection in the mirror widens her eyes, frozen in shock and defiance. In that instant, I realize the moment of exposure is inevitable and nothing will ever be the same again. My hands shook uncontrollably, trembling with the weight of the impossible choice in front of me. Alexis surged inside me like a living current, her boldness, elegance, and vulnerability intertwined with every heartbeat. She was no longer just a persona. I could feel her essence embedded in my body, commanding every movement, every nerve, every breath. The reflection in my mind's eye mirrored my own chaos. Fear, desire, and anticipation tangled together like a storm on the brink of explosion. The syringe lay within reach, a symbol of irreversible change. Every fiber of my being screamed to take it, to cement Alexa fully into reality, to erase the fragile boundary between Alex and her. The sensation of possibility was intoxicating, my skin tingling, my features softening, my body responding to the persona with an electrifying awareness. Alexa's presence was no longer just mental. It coursed through me physically, making my pulse race, my thoughts blur, my emotions surge. I hesitated, breath shallow, mind spinning. Could I risk the permanence while still caught in this whirlwind of fear and desire? Alexa urged me forward, daring me to embrace her fully, to surrender to the persona that had grown beyond imagination. But fear clamped down hard. What if I lost myself completely? What if the persona overwhelmed Alex entirely, leaving no way back? The tension was unbearable, an invisible vice tightening with each heartbeat. The world around me seemed to narrow, collapsing into a single point of focus: Alexa's reflection. Every subtle gesture, every flicker of emotion, every shiver of anticipation radiated powerfully. My hands tingled as if alive, responding to the persona's silent command. The sensation was both thrilling and terrifying. I could feel muscles I hadn't known existed tightening, posture shifting naturally into Alexa's poised elegance, and my mind teetering on the edge of surrender. Then came the sudden surge, a pulse of adrenaline and instinct that ripped through me, making my heart hammer and my thoughts scatter. Alexa's presence flooded every nerve, every sense, every ounce of consciousness. She was vibrant, electric, impossible to resist, almost demanding permanence. My body moved almost of its own accord, fingers brushing against the syringe, feeling its cool surface, the promise of irreversible change. But fear remained, gnawing relentlessly. The persona's audacity collided violently with Alex's hesitation, creating a storm of internal conflict. Every moment stretched impossibly long, filled with the tension of what might happen if I acted or if I hesitated. Alexa's eyes in my mind glimmered with defiance and vulnerability, compelling me, daring me, teasing me with the thrill of transformation. I took a deep breath, trying to steady the trembling, to reconcile the duality inside me. Every heartbeat pounded with anticipation, desire, and terror. The persona urged boldness, whispering the intoxicating promise of completeness, beauty, and liberation. The fear of loss, exposure, or irreversible change screamed in counterpoint, creating a tension almost unbearable. Then, unexpectedly, a sudden thought struck me, a memory of all the times I had nurtured Alexa, all the moments of secret transformation, all the nights trembling with the thrill and fear of exposure. The injection could solidify her, make her undeniable, and yet the risk of losing control loomed over me like a shadow. Every instinct screamed to act, yet every fiber of caution held me back. The sensation in my body intensified, the tingling warmth spreading, muscles responding naturally to the persona, features softening into fluidity I had never known. Alexa's presence had reached a peak, almost overwhelming. Every movement I made carried her essence, the sway of the hips, the tilt of the head, the subtle confidence radiating from posture and gaze. She had become inseparable from me, a living force that demanded recognition. I froze completely, feeling the full weight of possibility pressing down like a physical force. Alexa's reflection in my mind's eye was alive, defiant, vulnerable, impossible to ignore. My pulse thundered, my fingers trembling, the syringe so close it seemed to call my name. Every nerve screamed urgency, desire, and fear. The moment had arrived. Everything could change in a single decision. And then, without warning, the internal tension escalated to a peak. My body shivered as if recognizing the threshold I was about to cross. Alexa's presence surged, bold and commanding, while Alex's fear pressed equally hard. The duality collided violently inside me, leaving me suspended in a heartbeat of impossible anticipation. The syringe trembles in my hand, Alexa's essence pulsing through every nerve, every muscle, every thought. I realize with chilling clarity, if I let this moment pass without action, I might lose her forever. But if I act, nothing will ever be the same again. The decision hangs in the air, impossible, irreversible, electrifying. And in that heartbeat, I feel the edge of a new reality approaching, one from which there is no return. Every heartbeat echoed like a drum in my chest, each one louder than the last, a reminder that nothing would ever be the same. Alexa's presence surged through me completely now, bold, electrifying, intoxicating. She was no longer a mere persona I could retreat from. She had become visceral, alive, commanding my movements, my posture, my very breath. The temptation to embrace her fully, to take the syringe, and cement her reality was overwhelming. My fingers hovered above the syringe, trembling. The weight of the choice pressed down like gravity itself. One action could make Alexa permanent, undeniable, impossible to erase, while inaction risked losing her entirely, letting the persona I had nurtured vanish like smoke. The tension was unbearable, a storm inside me where fear, desire, excitement, and dread collided violently. I could feel the subtle physical changes intensifying, the softening of my features, the curve of my body responding naturally, the fluidity in my movements, the heightened awareness of every sensation. Alexa had become inseparable from me, an irresistible force that demanded recognition, that demanded embodiment. My reflection in my mind's eye was alive, wide-eyed, poised, trembling, yet impossible to ignore. The decision loomed impossibly large. Should I take the injection, surrender fully, and step into a reality where Alexa existed undeniably? Or should I retreat, preserve the fragile boundary that separated Alex from her, and cling to a sense of normalcy that now seemed increasingly alien? Every instinct screamed in conflicting directions, each nerve ending alive with tension. Suddenly, the persona surged more aggressively, her boldness flooding my consciousness. She moved through me in every motion, commanding my posture, tilting my head, swaying my hips naturally. It was intoxicating, thrilling, terrifying, and utterly impossible to resist. I could feel her heartbeat entwined with mine, a synchronicity that made Alex's hesitation almost unbearable. I inhaled sharply, letting the cool air fill my lungs, trying to steady the trembling in my hands. Every fiber of my being demanded action. The syringe gleamed softly, its promise of permanence whispering seductively. Alexa's reflection in my mind's eye leaned toward it, daring me to act, challenging me to embrace the transformation fully, to step into a world from which there was no return. Fear clawed at me relentlessly. What if I lost myself entirely? What if Alexa overwhelmed Alex, leaving no path back? Yet the thrill, the exhilaration, the profound sense of becoming someone powerful, beautiful, and audacious pulled me forward with irresistible force. Every breath, every heartbeat, every subtle shift in balance heightened the tension to near breaking point. Then, an unexpected surge of clarity hit me. Alexa was not just a fantasy, not just a mask, not just a persona. She was a part of me, an identity waiting to be fully realized, a presence I could no longer deny. Every instinct to retreat collided violently with the desire to embrace her completely. My body tensed, trembling, yet responsive, every muscle alive with anticipation. I grasped the syringe finally, feeling its cool weight grounding me in the moment. Alexa surged through me in waves, her boldness, elegance, and vulnerability amplifying every sensation. I was poised on the edge of transformation, suspended between fear and exhilaration, hesitation and desire. One movement, one injection, and nothing would ever be the same. As I raised the syringe, the world seemed to hold its breath. The tension inside me was electric, almost unbearable. Alexa's presence filled every thought, every emotion, every nerve, a tidal wave of sensation and identity. I could feel the final moment of choice approaching, irreversible, inevitable. And then, in the heartbeat before action, a sudden, unanticipated sound shattered the tension, a faint, deliberate movement nearby, a shadow shifting unexpectedly. My pulse raced faster, fear and exhilaration intertwined. Alexa's reflection in my mind's eye mirrored my shock, eyes wide, lips parted, poised yet terrified. The moment of decision had arrived, but it was no longer just about choice. It was about survival, identity, and the uncontrollable surge of transformation that had taken over completely. The syringe hovers over my hand, trembling. Alexa's essence pulses through every nerve, every heartbeat, every breath. I realize with chilling certainty, if I move, nothing will ever be the same. But if I hesitate, I might lose her forever. And then, the shadow shifts again, closer, impossible to ignore, leaving me suspended on the edge of a decision that could alter everything. The syringe trembled in my hand, icy and impossibly real, each heartbeat echoing like thunder through my chest. Alexa's presence surged inside me with a force that made my very bones hum. Bold, electric, undeniable. She was no longer a persona I could hide behind. She had become part of my body, my mind, my essence. Every fiber of my being screamed that this moment would change everything. Time seemed to stretch and fracture. Every second elongated into infinity, the tension inside me coiling tighter, squeezing my chest, electrifying my nerves. Should I finally embrace Alexa fully, cement her reality with the syringe, and abandon Alex entirely? Or should I retreat, preserve the fragile separation, and cling to the familiar identity I had known all my life? The duality twisted inside me, impossible to reconcile. My hands shook violently, fingers trembling as they hovered over the syringe. Every instinct urged action, yet fear clamped down with equal force. The persona inside me, bold, defiant, radiant, urged me forward, daring me to embrace her, to let go of hesitation, to step fully into a reality that could never be undone. My heartbeat synchronized with hers, each pulse a tidal wave of identity, desire, and thrill. The sensation was overwhelming. Muscles responding instinctively, posture shifting naturally, subtle curves and movements taking on a life of their own. Alexa's essence had become fully integrated with mine, and I could no longer distinguish where one ended and the other began. My reflection in my mind's eye, her reflection, was alive, impossibly real, wide-eyed, poised, trembling, daring me to act. Fear clawed at me relentlessly. What if I lost myself entirely? What if Alexa consumed Alex completely, leaving no trace of who I had been? The risk of permanence loomed like a shadow, impossible to ignore. Yet the exhilaration of becoming her, of finally stepping into a version of myself that had always felt real but unattainable, pulled me forward with a force I could not resist. Every nerve in my body tingled with anticipation. The world around me seemed to fade, collapsing into a single point of focus: the syringe, the reflection, the impossible choice. My breath caught, shallow and rapid, echoing the storm of emotion within. Alexis surged forward, her essence radiating power, vulnerability, and audacious beauty. She was alive, real, impossible to ignore, and demanding recognition. I raised the syringe slowly, each millimeter a lifetime of tension. My pulse thundered, every thought racing, every nerve electrified. The persona surged through me like lightning, making my muscles move, my posture shift, my mind teeter on the edge of surrender. The moment was suspended, impossibly fragile, yet charged with energy so potent it felt almost physical. And then something shifted. A sudden, soft noise, barely audible, sliced through the suspended silence. My breath caught. Alexa's reflection mirrored my shock, lips parted, eyes wide, poised yet terrified. The sound was deliberate, precise, a signal that something or someone was closer than I had anticipated. Every instinct screamed danger. Every fiber of my being tensed with anticipation. The syringe wavered, almost slipping from my fingers, a heartbeat away from disaster. Alexis surged inside me, defiant and radiant, almost daring me to act, almost daring me to embrace her fully, despite the unknown. My heart raced, nerves alive with tension, body trembling with the impossible choice before me. I realized with chilling clarity, nothing would ever be the same again. If I moved, if I acted, Alexa would exist fully, irrevocably, permanently. But if I hesitated, the persona, my secret, my bold, electric self, might be lost forever. The storm of emotion inside me collided violently with reason, desire, and fear. Time seemed to stand still. The world contracted to a single heartbeat, a single decision, a single possibility. Alexa's presence pulsed through every nerve, every thought, every breath. I could feel her essence, vibrant and intoxicating, daring me to surrender, to embrace, to transform. And then, in that suspended moment, a shadow shifted again, closer, deliberate, impossible to ignore. The tension snapped like a wire straining to the breaking point. Every sense was alive, every muscle tensed, every nerve electrified. I realized, with perfect and terrifying clarity, that my choice was no longer just about transformation. It was about survival, identity, and the impossible consequences that would follow either decision. The syringe trembles in my hand. Alexa pulses through every nerve, every heartbeat, every thought. And then, the shadow looms impossibly close, and I hear a voice, familiar yet impossible to place, whispering my name. The world tilts, everything freezes, and I know, with bone-deep certainty, once this moment ends, nothing will ever be the same.